There are hundreds, if not thousands, of old mine camps and towns in the United States that are nothing more than a memory of a time that once was. Some of these old towns lasted for only a year or so, while others maybe hung on for a bit longer. There are, however, a few of these old mine towns that became cities and are still standing strong today. Some of these old towns still have active mining as a contributor to their economy today, while others have become tourist and recreational spots. In this video, we're going to take a look at 5 old mining towns that you need to get out and visit this year, or at least put on your bucket list of places to see. Butte, Montana. Butte started out as an alluvial gold camp back in the 1860s after the miners started moving north from California after the big rush there started to die off. Within a few years, however, the gold ran out and mining slowed down until the 1870s when some silver was found. However, it was the high copper content of the ores that put this place on the map. By the mid-1880s, Butte had become a major copper producer, and by 1896, the mines around Butte were producing over 25% of the world's copper. These mines supplied work for over 8,000 men, and by 1910, Butte had a population of over 100,000. Copper ore mined from the Butte mining district in 1910 alone totaled 284 million pounds at the time. Butte was the largest producer of copper in North America and rivaled in worldwide metal production only by South Africa. The same year, in excess of 10 million troy ounces of silver and 37,000 troy ounces of gold were also discovered. The amount of ore produced in the city earned it the nickname, the richest hill on earth. Today, Butte has a population of around 35,000 residents. There is still some active mining that goes on in the area. The city hosts a large mining museum that showcases the history of this great copper town. For rockhounds, there is the Mineral Museum, and for historians, there is a real cool downtown. When visiting, be sure to check out the Copper King Mansion. Deadwood, South Dakota. It was gold that was discovered on French Creek in the Black Hills back in 1874. After word had gotten out about this gold strike, it didn't take long before the area was crawling with miners, prospectors, merchants, gamblers, and gunslingers. Deadwood was a lawless town and pretty much saw everyone and everything. The population swelled to 12,000 by 1877. However, some records state the population got as high as 25,000. This town saw some characters that would go down in the history books. Gunman Wild Bill Hickok was killed here on August 2, 1876. Both he and Calamity Jane are buried in the Mount Moriah Cemetery. Eleanor Dumont, also known by her nickname Madam Mustache, was a notorious gambler on the American western frontier. Jack McCall, the infamous murderer, who on August 2, 1876, walked into Nuttall and Mann's Saloon No. 10 and shot Wild Bill Hickok point blank in the back of the head. Let's not forget Seth Bullock, who arrived in Deadwood 2 days after Wild Bill had been shot. Seth became the first sheriff in town and eventually built Deadwood's first hotel, the Bullock Hotel. It was Deadwood's finest, most luxurious hotel of its time, being a 3-story building with steam heat and indoor bathrooms on each floor. Deadwood today is a tourist town. The population today is a far cry from the booming gold rush days with under 2,000 residents. Although the town had its share of fires over the years, a lot of the original town still stands. There are casinos, guided tours of the town, eateries and bars, and the list go on and on. Cripple Creek. This town is known as the world's greatest gold camp. It was back in October 1890 that Robert Womack discovered some rich ore and started a great Colorado gold rush. By July 1891, there was a post office, and by November, hundreds of prospectors were camping in the area. Within 3 years, the population increased from 500 to 10,000. By 1900, the Cripple Creek mining district was home to over 500 mines, and by 1910, the camp had produced 22.5 million ounces of gold. Between 1894 and 1902, around 50,000 people lived in the mining district, with 35,000 in the town of Cripple Creek alone, making it the 4th most populous town in Colorado at the time. Throughout its history, the Cripple Creek district produced millions of troy ounces of gold, and over 30 millionaires were produced since its mining heyday. Remember Robert Womack? He was the one who found the original discovery here. Well, he was not one of those millionaires. Robert sold his claim for $500 and a case of whiskey and died penniless on August 10, 1909. Today, Cripple Creek is a destination for those seeking to get away from the everyday hustle and bustle. Walking through the old downtown, you'll find the many casinos and nightly entertainment, as well as many shops, eateries, and bars. It's not just a place for adults either. There's camping, hiking, mine tours, and more. Virginia City, Nevada. Like many old mine camps in Nevada, Virginia City became a mining boomtown virtually overnight as a result of miners rushing to the Comstock Lode silver strike of 1859. However, Virginia City far surpassed many others for its peak of population from 4,000 in 1862 to over 15,000 the following year. By 1873, Virginia City had a population of over 25,000 residents and was called the richest city in the United States. This town also became known as home to the Comstock Lode, named after Henry Comstock, who ended up with a silver claim that was located on the slopes of nearby Mount Davidson. The Ophir, Gould and Curry, and Consolidated Virginia mines were mines that made up the Big Bonanza of 1873. The mines produced at least $300 million in mineral deposits. George Hearst and John Mackay were two of the men who made millions in the mines and became known as the Bonanza Barons. Peak production from the Comstock occurred in 1877, where the mines produced over $14 million of gold and $21 million of silver that year. At one point, there were over 400 companies mining in and around this area. Samuel Clemens, or better known as Mark Twain, wrote for the local newspaper here. Clemens lived in Virginia City and wrote for the Enterprise from the fall of 1862 until May 1864. Today, Virginia City is a town full of old history. Visitors come to tour the old mines and the Sutro Tunnel. Old mansions and stately brick buildings can still be seen as you walk the streets of this old town. Just a short drive from Reno makes this town of less than 1,000 people a great way to get away for a day. Tombstone, Arizona. You can't talk about old mine towns and not mention Tombstone, Arizona, founded by prospector Ed Schieffelin when he found silver back in 1877. Within a short period of time, there was over 100 other prospectors in the area. Ed and two partners then formed the Tombstone Mining and Milling Company and built a stamp mill, and by the fall of 1879, Tombstone was a bustling camp with several thousand residents. One of the mines, called the Tough Nut Mine, was producing silver ore that was as rich as $22,000 a ton. Tombstone was also a town that saw its share of fires. On June 22, 1881, a fire started in the Arcade Saloon, destroying 66 businesses. A year later, on May 25, 1882, a fire started in a Chinese laundry which burnt down over 100 buildings. This town also saw its share of outlaws and gunfights. Robberies and stage holdups were almost a daily occurrence. Killings were so common that the local paper hardly even mentioned them. And of course, Tombstone was home to the famous lawmen Doc Holliday, James, Virgil, and Wyatt Earp, and that famous shootout at the OK Corral. Oh, and let's not forget Doc's old lady, Big Nose Kate. How much silver was extracted from the ground around here? Well, estimates vary widely as to how much was mined at Tombstone, but it is said that over 32 million ounces were produced, worth way over $1 billion today. These days, Tombstone is a tourist town. You can check out the actual site of Tombstone's legendary gunfight and see daily reenactments of the shootout. Check out the old mines and the famous Boot Hill. Have yourself a drink in Wyatt Earp's original gambling hall. Walk the same streets the miners of old once walked and check out the many shops, eateries, and saloons. Tombstone is just a bit over an hour from Tucson and can make for an exciting day trip. I hope you enjoyed this short video about 5 old towns to visit. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you more old lost mine stories.